Hi everybody, my name's Todd. This is a quick and simple guide to using Blender in 2D animation for people like me who suffer from ADD and just have the attention span of a bucket of doorknobs. Things to keep in mind here, I'm no means an expert. I am one of those people that really gets irritated when I want to be creative, but I have to spend loads of time trying to learn an app or a program to facilitate this creative process. I just want things to work. I don't have time to mess with all this stuff. And I think if you're watching this video, you might feel the same way I do. This is not a tutorial on how to do specific things that require long clicking and menus and all that kind of crap. I'm simply putting this together in case you're someone who's interested in doing 2D animation in Blender and you want to just know the basics. You want to know what it is you got to do to get things rolling. And I'm going to tear right through this stuff and you can watch and see if it's for you, because maybe it's not. Blender is it's a monster. And it's not for everybody. For me personally, it really ticked a lot of boxes and made things possible that I couldn't do in other programs. I've heard great stories about Blender and how powerful it's gotten, and lately with the new 2.8 update, it's just perfect for 2D animation. It really is. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through everything and I'm going to show you where things are, like brushes, colors, how to do layers, just really simple stuff that you're going to want to know about when you get into Blender, because Blender is not intuitive at all. It is frustrating how badly it's designed in some respects. But after you watch this video, you shouldn't have any trouble. It's very simple once you see where everything's are, and you'll be able to make your animations after watching this video. Okay, we've already wasted enough time talking. Let's get right to it. Okay, after you've installed Blender, you're going to have an icon on your desktop. If you haven't done that yet, go do it, or you can just watch it. I don't care. Open up Blender. The first thing you're going to see is your splash screen. It's going to be asking you what you want to do. We're going to do 2D animation, obviously, so you click that. If you don't get the splash screen, you can go up to File, New, 2D Animation. It does the same thing. Okay. Before we go on, I need to explain something about Blender that confuses a lot of people, especially me. Blender is a 3D environment. Everything that happens in this program is happening in the 3D space. Because we're drawing in 2D animation, we don't need the 3D space, but it's still in 3D space. This was the most confusing thing to me until I understood what's going on here, because I've never used Blender before, so this was all new to me. Okay, if we go up here, this is our canvas. If I go up here and I click this, and we can zoom out, and that's our canvas in 3D space. And what's neat about this is that you could literally create several canvases and animate on them independently, and Blender will render them in 3D space. But we don't need to worry about this. We want to be in 2D space. So what you're going to do is you're going to go up to the top here, and there's a movie camera, and you click on that, and then it'll bring your canvas up. Okay. While we're talking about these icons at the top here, let's go up to the one at the very top. This is your magnifying glass. If you hold this down, you can zoom in and out while you're holding the button down, or if you use your pen. The next icon down is your hand. If you put your pen or your mouse on that, you can drag around. And again, that movie camera, if you click on that movie camera, it will toggle between 3D and 2D space. Okay? All right. The only other thing that we need to talk about before we start drawing is your output settings. If you go over here to the right, you'll see a little printer icon. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on that, and you're going to see your render settings over here. You want to set this up at about 1080p. That's where I've got it. I don't know out of the box what this was at. It may already be there, but it's a good idea to put it there. 100% and 1:1 aspect ratio. Okay. The stuff down here below, we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes, but for right now, don't worry about it. Okay, let's talk about tools. Tools in Blender are broken into categories, just like most programs. Over here on the left, you're going to see them over here. The thing that you need to understand, and this gets a little confusing the first time, you have to be in the right mode. Up here on the left-hand side, you'll see this little box here. And when you pull it down, you have different modes: object mode, edit mode, sculpt mode, draw mode, and weight paint. We want to be in draw mode. If you're not in draw mode, you won't see this stuff. You're going to see totally different things. So like in object mode, you won't be able to draw. So we want to be in draw mode. Once you're in draw mode, you select your pen, and then up here at the top, you can see your icon, and you select that, and that brings up your tool menu. pencil, soft pencil, different weights of pens. What's neat about these is that you can set each one of them in different properties. So if I clicked ink pen at the top here, you can see your properties at the top. When you set them, they stay. So you can create all kinds of different pens and stuff over here and put them in here so that they're available for you all the time. A lot of programs do. Krita does that, and Adobe does that too. So that's nothing new. Okay, after you get your pen and with the way you want it, you can draw on your surface and everything should work as you're familiar. Now, there's also other categories over here. We've got a fill tool, an eraser tool, and a cut tool. I'm not going to go into that stuff right now. All you need to know are the basics of how to draw. That's what I'm concentrating on here. Okay, let's talk about colors real quick, because colors are a little different in Blender. Since we're using an ink pen, we can go up to the top here and we can bring down our colors, and we can just select the color and then it'll draw on that color. The problem is you can't create your colors here. You can only select them. If you want to create a color, what you have to do is you have to go over to the right, and this little red globe right here is your color menu. You push that down and now we have colors. If you want to create a color, you go up here and you hit plus, and we're going to hit new. And then you can name the color whatever you want, obviously. So we'll call this blue. We'll call it blue. And we'll hit enter. And after you hit enter, then you'll get this down here, this bar here. Click on that, and then you can create your color accordingly. All right, well, let's make it blue. Okay, then we'll click the bar, and now it's going to be able to draw in blue. Okay, if you're using a pencil, you can't do this. You can only use colors in ink pens. That makes sense, I mean, if you think about it. Okay, and also now that you've created this color over here, you'll also find it in this menu, and it just lines them right up for you. Okay, all right, so that's how we create colors. Let's talk about layers. Of all the things that I had to learn in Blender, layers were the most confusing. Over here on the right, you're going to find scene collections, but that's not what you want. You just want to make sure that stroke is selected, and then you're going to go down here to where this little green thing is. You're going to click that. That is where your layers are located. If we look, you can see there's already two layers created. There's a lines layer and a fills layer. That's there by default. Over next to the layer names, you're going to find some other things. You can create a mask. This is your onion skinning. This is the visibility of that layer. You can turn it on and off so you can actually see it. And then obviously we can lock the layer. If you want to create a layer, hit plus, name the layer to stick it on there. Okay, that's the basis of how the layers work in here, but there's all kinds of things you can do and where they're located that are a little bit different than some programs. Okay, if we go down to the timeline, which is down here, this is where all your keyframes are located. Now, your layers are also down here. You can see them. In fact, if we drag this up a little bit, I can do this without screwing it up. There, we pull it up. If you keep making a whole bunch of layers, they'll all be listed on here. So you can literally create your keyframes and edit them out individually per layer, which is really kind of cool. The other neat thing about this window right here is we can take this window, detach it, and stick it in another monitor if you want. That's what I did, so I have more drawing space. Okay, so real quick here, let's just go through this real fast. Let's say we're going to create a pencil layer. So we'll go new, and we're going to name the layer pencil. And enter, and now we should be able. Now it's not going to save your tools. You have to go up and you have to select pencil as your tool. Okay, so now we got pencil, and we can create a pencil layer, and then we want to create a lines layer. So we'll go to lines and we'll select ink pen. So now we can draw over the top of that. And just to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, we'll go over here on the side here, and if we click the eyeball and turn off your ink layer, then you'll see it disappear, and the same is true with your pencil layer. Okay, so that's basically layers. If you've never used layers before, go watch a bunch of videos, because you need to understand layers if you want to do animation. Okay, let's talk about onion skinning. Okay, before we talk about onion skinning, we have to talk about keyframes and your basic frame setup. If you look over here on the right hand side, if you go into the one little printer icon here, click on that, and you'll see that we're running at 24 frames a second. I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to hit custom, to 12 frames a second, because quite frankly, I'm not working for Disney and I don't want to animate something in 24 frames. That's no fun. Okay, that'll take a lot of time off your rendering as well. Okay, once you have your 12 frames set for, we can move on here. Go back to the little squiggly tool here, and we're going to select lines, and let's select an ink pen. Okay, we're all set up to draw. Okay, now, keyframe 1 has no information in it right now. But as soon as I draw something, information is now going to be in there, and it's represented by those dots. Okay, and if we were to draw on a second layer, you would see the dot in that layer. So right now we're on the line layer, so you can see it. Okay, if I move to keyframe 2, which is the next keyframe, obviously, and the way we do that is you push the arrow button to the right. That's the easiest way to do it. The lines that we drew are still there, and the reason for that is because Blender's waiting to see what you're going to do in keyframe 2. Are you going to draw something? Are you going to move what you drew already? Are you going to alter it? Are you going to shape it? There's all kinds of things that you can do with this because it's vector art. And by the way, if you don't know what vector art is, you need to go research that too and come back. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw a second keyframe. So I'm going to draw this, and you'll notice everything is still there until I let go of the pencil. And now you can see the onion skinning. And the onion skinning is over here. If you click on the green thing and you go down here, you can see the opacity, and you can see like how many frames before you want to see onion skinning and how many frames after, and you can create colors, and it's pretty neat. You can do all kinds of stuff. It's pretty robust. Okay, so let's go to keyframe 2, and we'll do the same thing. We'll draw a circle, and you'll see it just keeps onion skinning. We'll just keep drawing a circle as it comes down. And we'll just kind of draw a ball that's falling here. And okay, it flattened out. And we'll go up. Okay, so if I go through this and we hit play, oh, by the way, when you set up your timeline, it's a good idea to go down here in the bottom right hand corner and tell it you don't want 250 frames. I don't know what it is by default, but we'll say 50 for right now. That way it loops. Okay, and then when I hit play, you should see this. Yep. And then it'll loop around again. Okay, pretty simple, sloppy, but you get the idea. Okay, that's how you animate basically in keyframes. Now you can go down here and you can select these, and you have all your like if you right click on the mouse button, you have all your options to create and paste and copy and all that kind of thing. But for right now, that's basically how you do onion skinning and your keyframes. Now you can also turn the onion skinning off. We talked about that earlier up here on the right hand side, or you can do it down here because remember it shows layers in both locations. You just hit this button here and it'll turn it on and off. Okay, let's talk about rendering and output. When it comes time to getting your animation out to where people can see it, I could spend an entire video on telling you all the different ways Blender can send stuff out. It's pretty amazing. Let's just keep it as simple as possible. I just want to get it out in a movie that people can see. If you come over here to the right, on your menu, you're going to click your printer little thing here. On your menu, you're going to see your output resolution. This is the scale. Just leave it at 100%. And this is your aspect ratio. Just leave those at 1:1. Render region, what that means is you can actually box it or crop it and render that. We're not going to talk about that right now. This is the frame that it's going to start at. This is the frame that it's going to end at. This is the step. What that means is that if you animated in 24 frames a second and you wanted to skip a frame, you could, push this to 2 and then it'll render faster. Don't worry about that. Let's just keep it at 12 frames a second. All right. The second most important thing you need to know is where you're going to send these files. So you're going to click this, and you can tell it where you're going to put these files on your computer. And by files, I mean these are your options. Down here, and this is the most important thing you have to remember, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Open this menu, and you can see how you want Blender to export your animation. You can export it as individual BMP images. You can export it as individual JPEGs, PIN files. TIFFs, I mean, you name it. You can even export it as a movie. You have three different versions of movies here you can do. FFmpeg video is usually the best way to go, or you can use AVI RAW if you want to get into that. Anyway, after you have that selected, you go up here to render, tell it to render your animation, and it'll send it on its way. I'm going to stop the video there. I'm losing my attention as we're speaking. If you learned anything, please give me a thumbs up. Maybe more people can find this video and learn something. If you have some questions or specific things that you'd like to learn about, please send me an email. I don't think you can comment on this video because it's made for kids too. Thanks again, and you guys, good luck animating. I hope Blender works out for you.